so controversial and hated so much that I won't even say the name. Everyone's going, what are you talking about? But ain't no shame in my game, so I hear it. I see the similarity. Keyshawn J. Willimax is presented by Progressive Insurance. Yates, you care to guess who I'm talking about?
I'm really trying to think right now. Is he new dude or old dude?
You would be so mad if I said the name.
I kind of want you to just say the name, to be honest with you.
Maybe I should tease it.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued now.
He's very
Is he alive?
Yes, although
There was
some people
Brenda,
aren't happy
Letitia,
about that.
Linda, Felicia, Dawn, LaShawn, Anel, and Alicia, Teresa, Monica, Sharon, Nikki, Lisa, Veronica, Karen, Vicky, Tanya. Oh, I met her at an ice cream parlor. Oh, I messed up. I thought I was flowing.
Remembered every name, though. Yates, he remembered every name.
He missed Cookie, though. He missed Cookie.
3 Kims.
Latoya.
Letitia. Yeah, all right, I'm done.
Hey,
I messed up. I messed up. I botched it. I was flowing, though.
The road to the rematch is on, Jay, as bantamweight champion Juliana Pena and former champ Amanda Nunes go head-to-head as coaches on the historic 30th season of The Ultimate Fighter. Stream the series now exclusively on ESPN+. Sign up now at ESPNplus.com. So, Jay, are
Max?
Westbrook and the Lakers about a split? The way Westbrook split with his agent over that very subject. His agent, who I was told the last name is pronounced Fouché. Now, and if Tim Bontemps is putting me on, it's the greatest prank he could possibly play on me. If I wind up calling, I thought it was Foucher. I just read Foucher. I just didn't know it was a French pronunciation.
And don't worry, Max. A lot of people have been calling him Foucher for a long time. You're fine.
I hope Tim is putting me on because that would be hilarious. His statement on the split with Westbrook. This is Russell's agent. I represented Russell Westbrook for 14 years. I'm proud of our partnership, which included a highly successful 2008 draft, a supermax contract, and the only renegotiation and extend max contract in history. I also supported Russell through his rise into a prominent fashion industry and recently orchestrated 3 successive trades on Russell's behalf, culminating with his trade to his hometown Los Angeles Lakers. Now, here's what's important, okay? That's all, hype propaganda for the agent, right? Here's what's important. Jay, this spoke to me. Quote, each time, talking about the trades, remember, 3 successive trades on Russell's behalf. Each time, teams gave up valuable players and assets to acquire Russell. And each time, a new organization embraced his arrival. We did it together with grace and class. Quote, now with a possibility of a 4th trade in 4 years, the marketplace is telling the Lakers they must add additional value with Russell in any trade scenario. And even then, such a trade may require Russell to immediately move on from the new team via buyout. My belief is that this type of transaction only serves to diminish Russell's value, and his best option is to stay with the Lakers, embrace a starting role, and support what Darvin Ham publicly offered. Russell is a first-ballot Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer and will prove that again before he is retired. Unfortunately, irreconcilable differences exist as to his best pathway forward, and we are no longer working together. I wish Russell and his family the very best. It's at least implicit, maybe explicit here, Jay, that you don't even have to infer. He is saying, the agent here, I said, Russ, don't look for a trade. Look what the marketplace is telling you. You are very valuable. All the teams had to give up a lot of stuff to get you. Now they have to give up stuff to move you. And then they're going to buy you out, maybe. It reminds me in its way, Jay, of Moneyball, the book and the movie about the Oakland A's and Billy Beane, who was like the first GM in baseball, who was like, hey, let me not be stupid. I'll be smart, right? Like, let's look at the numbers that makes everyone, you can't look at numbers. He's like, the whole sport, you look at numbers, dummies. And he was first place in a division every year with no money, right? Because he was like one of 2 or 3 smart GMs in the sport back then. At any rate, he acquired David Justice. Remember David Justice, big slugger out of Atlanta originally? Yeah. Married to Halle Berry. Yeah. So, and there was a scene in the movie, I don't remember it in the book, but I know that this is more or less what happened, where David Justice is being this and that. He's like, thinks of himself as a star still, right? And someone, Billy Beane went to him and was like, dude, I got you for pennies on the dollar. Why do you think that is? You embrace the role that you're in now. And David Justice did, to his credit, right? So Russell Westbrook's agent is telling him something similar here. Russ, you want another trade? You want to show the marketplace that you have negative value because they're going to have to attach some stuff to move you? Or you want to stay where you are and reestablish your value? I get it, Jay.
Well, I mean, Max, this is a roller coaster ride. There's been a lot going on. Obviously, scenes of Russ and LeBron James at a Summer League game where they supposedly didn't talk to each other. Then you hear reports last night from Chris Haynes pretty much saying that him, AD, and LeBron have all had a conversation before Summer League started about them being willing to make it work more than anything and how they're going to navigate through that. And then for Thad, who is Russell Westbrook's agent, who is, you hear who was, you hear great things about Thad and his reputation around the league. For him to come out and say this almost in a way to save himself and his own reputation, it just, man, look, I don't think the Lakers are going to have any choice but to run this back. And I know that for Lakers fans, they want to hear about Kyrie Irving and they want that trade to happen. But I, first off, don't see Russ and KD being on the same team, considering what they've been through in OKC and how that imploded within itself. And then secondly, you don't have any choice. He opted into a massive deal. Now, I know, Max, you're going to say, well, that can come off your books. But still, what that does to your team, for a young team, do you want that around young players? Same reason with Kyrie to a degree. And as you relate to the Lakers here, when it's all said and done, when you hear about irreconcilable differences here from a long-withstanding agent who has been able to make trades happen. I mean, 3 teams in 3 years. Now we're talking about 4 teams in 4 years for a guy who is a Hall of Famer, who is Mr. Triple-Double. At the end of the day, LeBron, AD, and Russ are going to have to find some way with Darvin Ham, Rasheed Wallace, and this new staff to make this happen.
Any Seth Currys in there? Because any Joe Harris's? Because they could use it. Here's the thing. What's crazy to me about what's going on with the Nets and with the Lakers. It's a really good chance that everyone winds up where they are, right?
Yes.
Like that is a possibility. Wouldn't it be funny if when these teams were put together and there were all these high hopes and that didn't happen and it looked like a disaster, if circumstances conspired to keep them together when they wanted to break apart and they wound up actually meeting each other in the finals? Like that universe does that possibility is not that far-fetched, more from the Lakers' point of view because they need shooters. But from Brooklyn's point of view, maybe a little, like if they just bring that team back and those guys get on the court together, it could be a problem.
Max, what's that line? Fool me once, shame on me.
You, fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, I'm not putting the Lakers and the Nets in the NBA Finals. I did that last year.
Of course, what I'm suggesting is
what
I'm suggesting is against the odds and like would be people would laugh that. But what I'm saying is it's not quite as laughable as you think if you really consider it. If the Lakers get some shooting, if the Lakers can simply stay healthy, and by healthy, I mean LeBron and AD play at least 60 games each, right?
Yeah. AD. You're asking AD. LeBron, for the most part, has been healthy.
Okay, but at his age, he's had some injuries recently. If those two guys both play 60-plus games and Westbrook does buy in and they pick up a couple of guys who can simply shoot the ball, the Lakers could be a whole lot for teams.
Well, Max, there are guys. Everybody talks about, this past weekend. I haven't been here. The DeAndre Ayton trade, right? That offer sheet he got from Indiana for $133 million. That then Phoenix, within WOJ reported 3 minutes, pretty much matched, right? Which was interesting because it kind of soured the market from the Phoenix perspective on the Kevin Durant move. Mm-hmm. But if you're Indiana, it showed that, hey, look, we're willing to make moves. We're willing to put things out there for a guy in Miles Turner, and we want to go after a guy. So it goes back to me for a guy like Buddy Hield, who is one of the original names that we had talked about here on this show, KJM, as it related to a reasonable asset for the Lakers to go out and attain.
That was originally the idea was, do you pick up Buddy Hield and someone else or Westbrook to put around LeBron and AD? And
Buddy Hield, Eric
LeBron
Gordon.
pushed for Westbrook.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people internally that wanted Buddy Hield that can still do things off the dribble, that can still make moves, can still shoot the ball, extend. You have to stay home on him when you drive towards that side. I mean, he gives them so much more optionality, right? So you got guys like him. You got guys like Eric Gordon. Does it make sense? I think the Lakers still have moves to make.
Yes. Wait,
I
hold
don't
on.
think it's as much, Max, into this Kyrie Irving move that obviously is going to get a lot of pub because it's a polarizing name that can sell headlines. But if you're Rob Pelinka, you're looking at more reasonable moves that fit within the personnel of the scheme that you run right now with Darvin Ham, and guys like Eric Gordon or guys like Buddy Hield fit more into that role.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I've been saying for a long time now, especially when Brogdon was on the team, a team like Indiana. So what I would look for the Lakers is, because Westbrook's $47 million, it's expiring. Meantime, by the way, he can bring fans, give fans something to look at. If he's on it, goes to a team with just shooting, and you put the ball in his hand, they'll win as much as they lose, and it'll be exciting. And he's a big name in a small market somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Here is where I would look for trade partners, and Indiana's an interesting one. Who has 2 or 3 nice players, but their contracts extend more than a year into the future? And because they're simply nice players and the team has no other star, right, doesn't have a real superstar, that team is kind of stuck. They can't advance. Because you could trade Westbrook, I imagine, for a couple or 3 guys like that, because that way that team dealing you the other guys gets out of their contracts. Mm-hmm. Westbrook, especially if you're talking about the trade deadline. I asked Bontemps about this on This Just In yesterday. And on ESPN, I don't know if you heard about it. It's a show I host, Jay. I try to get you on. You're very hard to book. And
I am for you.
And yeah, that's right, for me. Only for me, special for me. He's heard enough of me by the time that show rolls around. And he said, look, it's hard to find enough guys who make enough money to match Westbrook's contract. But maybe Indiana would be a trade partner. Listen to Adrian Wojnarowski, because he agrees with you on Get Up yesterday, Jay.
There's more out there for them than just Kyrie Irving. They have Eric Gordon, who certainly brings shooting, Buddy Hield from the Pacers. Those are 2 players they've talked about, both former Rob Pelinka clients from his agent days. And I still think there are other scenarios out there that maybe they're certainly not the level. There aren't many Kyrie Irvings out there, and they're certainly not available in trades. What the Lakers are trying to avoid is just absolutely mortgaging all of their future.
You know what's really interesting, Max? Again, from somebody that's been around a lot of GMs, from somebody that's thought about, do I want to be a president of an NBA franchise? The relationships that agents have had, right, with players and what agency you're represented by really matters. I had no idea until I hear Woj say that Rob Pelinka also worked with Eric Gordon and Buddy Hield from his agenting days. Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about Tibbs and that relationship with CAA and Leon Rose and how a lot of the foundation of the Knicks that they're building are built into CAA-like clients. We see that with Clutch Sports and Rich Paul and LeBron James and those type of relationships.
And Kentucky players. CAA and Kentucky players.
Yeah, I mean, so, but one last tidbit on this that I think is fascinating is that the 2 players that we keep talking about potentially being moved on different coasts, from Russell Westbrook to Kyrie Irving, they both signed 1-year deals. Like they're on 1 year. Like Russ has opted into his contract, right? That $47 million, and you're saying it can be used as something that can come off the books. Mm-hmm. Kyrie has opted into that last year of his deal, right? Because
what were their options?
Exactly, and that's what we're seeing, right? How they handle this year coming up will give a lot of insight to a lot of franchises on whether they want to take that risk for what they're going to ask for moving forward.
You know what's interesting?
So we feel like we're at an inflection point for both players that are extremely talented, and they're different talent levels, right? But they're extremely talented, but where they fit in